Serena Williams sat among them, calm and graceful as always. She was not only a legend on the tennis court, but a woman who carried a sense of peace everywhere she went. The kind of person who didn't have to speak loudly to be heard. The group's conversation drifted from one topic to another: family, memories, travel, until a voice dropped a sentence so sharp it sliced through the comfort of the moment. Did you ever wonder about Meghan's real age? The words landed like glass shattering in the air. Everyone went still. For a moment, nobody dared to respond, but Serena's face changed. Her smile faded and she leaned back ever so slightly, her mind suddenly awake to something she didn't want to think about. Then came the question that silenced the entire room. Wait, how did she have kids? It wasn't said cruelly or with gossip, it came out like confusion, the kind that sticks to your skin because it feels real. Serena didn't laugh or shrug it off. She looked down for a moment thinking, and in that quiet pause, something shifted. The world that had once made perfect sense, Meghan's glamorous life, her royal motherhood, her picture-perfect story, suddenly didn't add up. Serena had known Meghan for years. She'd been by her side through the rise to fame, the royal wedding, and even the early days of motherhood. She wasn't an outsider watching from afar, she was a friend. But Serena's gift has always been her instinct. On the court, she could sense her opponent's next move before the ball even touched the ground. And that same instinct now whispered that something was off. She replayed moments in her mind, private talks, small details, dates that didn't align. There were memories of Meghan mentioning things that suddenly seemed out of order, years that didn't match what was written in magazines. And Serena, who had never been one to chase gossip, felt the unease sink in. The question wasn't about judgment, it was about logic, about truth, about the human details that no headline could hide. Because if Meghan wasn't as young as everyone believed, then her story, the pregnancies, the timelines, the way everything fit so neatly would have to be rewritten. For Serena, it wasn't about doubting a friend. It was about recognizing when a story stops making sense. And for the first time, Meghan's story no longer did. It always begins with paper. Old records, photographs, and documents that remember what people forget. According to official reports, Meghan Markle was born in 1981 and graduated from Northwestern University in 2003 at the age of 22. A clean, simple timeline. But when researchers dug into Northwestern's archives, they found something strange. In the yearbook photos, Meghan is pictured smiling in the back row of the university's salsa club, surrounded not by students in their early 20s, but by people nearly 10 years older. Many of those classmates were born in the early 1970s. Some had finished high school as early as 1988. By the time Meghan supposedly graduated high school in 1999, many of them were already starting families or working full-time jobs. This wasn't a random photo. Her name appeared beside theirs again in club rosters, newsletters, and even alumni announcements years later. These weren't people she just met once. They were her circle. And that's when the numbers stopped matching. If Meghan was truly 22 in 2003, why were her closest peers from a decade earlier? Why did her timeline fit neatly on paper but not in the faces and names beside her? One source described it simply: it looked too perfect, like a story polished before it was told. For Serena, the realization deepened. Her friend's life, from the fairy tale wedding to the royal motherhood, might not just be a story of ambition, but one carefully managed from the very start. And with that, the question that began as a whisper grew into something heavier. If the first part of Meghan's life doesn't line up, how many other parts were written for the cameras? Serena's whisper kept echoing long after that night. How did she have kids? It wasn't cruel curiosity, it was logic knocking on the door of something hidden. If Meghan's real age was earlier than what the world had been told, then the rest of her story would have to stretch to fit it. Pregnancies, due dates, photographs, every piece of her royal timeline would shift. Medical experts quietly note that giving birth naturally becomes more complicated past certain ages. It isn't impossible, but it does come with risks, longer recovery, and clear signs of physical strain. Yet Meghan's pregnancies had looked smooth, effortless, almost cinematic. There was no pause, no visible fatigue, no adjustment to the rhythm of royal life. Allegedly, a source close to one of the doctors in the royal circle mentioned that everything about the timeline seemed rehearsed. Every announcement, every photo, every appearance, right down to the month, matched a pattern too perfect to be real life. That's what Serena was feeling that day, not anger, not envy, just a deep sense that something natural had been replaced by something staged. Because when biology and storyline no longer agree, the body itself becomes the biggest clue. Then came the footage, the part no one could unsee. Cameras had followed Meghan during her public appearances, capturing every wave and smile. But those same cameras also caught something strange. Her baby bump never seemed to stay the same. In one photograph, it sat high and round beneath a fitted dress. Just days later, at another event, it appeared lower and smaller. The change wasn't subtle, it was obvious even to the untrained eye. And then came the clip that would later be called the moon bump moment. Meghan is seen lowering herself into a chair, still smiling for the cameras. For a split second, the curve of her stomach folds inward, bending in a way no real baby bump should. The palace dismissed it at once. They called it a trick of light, a wrinkle in fabric, a camera illusion. But the video was clear, replayed again and again by people who understood movement, angles, and human anatomy. It wasn't light. It wasn't fabric. It was movement that defied the laws of biology. From that moment, the illusion began to crack. Behind the glowing photos and magazine covers, behind the royal smiles, something darker stirred. The idea that the pregnancy everyone celebrated might have been more performance than reality. Serena, seeing the footage later, didn't speak. She didn't need to. The same look that had frozen her in that quiet room returned, calm, thoughtful, but deeply unsettled. In royal circles, secrets don't travel loudly. They whisper down corridors, pass between assistants and aides who learn to speak without being heard. Over time, small stories began to leak from people who had been close enough to notice but smart enough to stay silent. One event planner, present during the final months of Meghan's supposed pregnancy, remembered watching her backstage. She moved too easily, the source said softly. No heaviness, no stiffness, nothing you'd expect from a woman about to give birth. Another staff member allegedly confessed that in all their months of fittings, they never once saw the bump uncovered. Not during wardrobe adjustments, not during private preparations, always fabric, always covered. Individually, these memories might have meant nothing, but together they formed a pattern, a story told not through confession but through repetition, a story of control. Everything about Meghan's pregnancy seemed choreographed, from her gentle cradling gesture that appeared in nearly every photo to the precisely timed outfits designed to draw attention to her stomach without ever revealing what lay beneath. These weren't online rumors, they were first-hand recollections, quietly shared by people who had worked within the palace walls, people who understood that truth in that world was something fragile. For them, silence was safety. For Serena, it was confirmation. Because when too many small details begin to align, when whispers repeat across different mouths in different rooms, it's no longer imagination, it's evidence wearing a disguise. The palace gates opened, and the flash of cameras lit up the gray morning sky. Just days after giving birth, Meghan Markle stepped into view. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless, her dress fitted at the waist, and her heels impossibly high. She smiled softly as if the world hadn't been waiting for this exact moment. The photos were stunning. History would later show them as symbols of modern motherhood, the royal fairy tale reborn. But behind the applause, behind the endless compliments, quiet murmurs began to rise. Doctors who saw the footage from afar whispered what others were afraid to say aloud, that such recovery, that level of poise and mobility was not typical of a woman only days after childbirth. There was no stiffness, no careful steps, no signs of exhaustion. She looked untouched. It wasn't the beauty that raised questions, it was the perfection. The way everything seemed too clean, too arranged, as if the moment was choreographed down to the heartbeat. And in that moment, the world saw what the palace wanted it to see. A glowing new mother, a proud husband, a baby wrapped in soft white cloth. But for those who had already begun connecting the dots, Serena's question, the shifting bump, the whispering staff, the picture looked less like celebration and more like closure. A story ending neatly before anyone could ask for the truth. And so we returned to that quiet room, to the soft lighting, the laughter that stopped too soon. The moment Serena Williams leaned back, eyes narrowing slightly, her instincts whispering something she couldn't ignore. It wasn't gossip, it wasn't malice, it was awareness.